Welcome to Zen Fits this morning. We have a good show for you. I've been reading or watching for the last 3 or 4 days this Netflix documentary on Hitler's evil circle of evil, which basically is the story of Hitler's inner circle. You know, Goebbels and Göring and Borum and Himmler and who else? Speer. So it's this little circle, and Hess, and one who was assassinated. So this little inner circle was there at the beginning and expanded its power until it took over Europe and ended up in the destruction of Europe. So we seem to be still fascinated with Hitler. If you just look at the number of documentaries on TV, and because it's on film, there's so much film, and the analysis of Hitler seems to be unending in our fascination with it. Why are we fascinated with it? Well, it's us. Hitler is kind of like the extreme exaggeration of something that is universal in life. And I wanted to look at that today. It just kind of came to me. I've been as I've been watching this, I've been kind of nagged by what is the universal in this? You know, everything we see is the particular, the concrete, the this and that, It's this. But what's the universal in it? It's kind of like, what's the formula? What's the universal formula? And science, and we're all looking for the theory that explains everything. Einstein was driven by it. The theory that explains everything. There was even a movie about Stephen Hawking, for the one cause, the first cause, the single unit that can't be divided, the one that can't be divided, the one that has no second, the theory that explains everything. It's kind of like that's the universal search. And so I wrote this up here, the circle of evil. So right there, where that describes Hitler's circle of evil, but then what is the circle of evil? If we could see the universal, then we could see the circle in us when it gets started. So that's what I'm curious about. So here's this Ouroboros, my favorite mythological symbol. Ouroboros. The snake devouring itself. Now this is a dynamic dog chasing its tail, wah, 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 and it's also self-generating. Like when you take a microphone and stick it in front of an amplifier, wah, 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 turn it off, wah, 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 wah. If you don't turn it off, the amplifier will blow up. So what happened with Hitler? Nobody could turn off the circle, the Ouroboros, so it blew up. There were several things in the documentary pointed out, was that unlike other factions in Germany at the time, in the 1920s, when Nazism rose as an ideology, there were many different factions: communists, the generals, gangsters, the Democrats, the ones who wanted to bring back the Kaiser, all of these different factions, but only one separated the means from the end. The only one group would do anything for their end. And the Nazis in the beginning were a street gang, the brown shirts. They just beat up people. And he even Hitler tried to have a putsch, a coup, a military takeover. And it failed, and he got put in jail. And then he realized that the takeover must be political, so they began a political takeover, which would not have exceeded had not, they were just a minor party until the wall, they kept predicting the end of the Germans, the economy would come. And the Germans were happy in the 20s, the roaring 20s, I didn't want to hear that. Then the Wall Street crash came, and Hitler became a prophet. I told you so, you see. So that brought in his rise to power, and the vortex kept increasing. The power kept increasing. There was no check. Whatever he went, there was no check on it, so it kept increasing. And then there was a check. The Russians and the Americans, the French and the British came in because they got energized. They created a balance to German power and began to squish it in a vice. And then as their last resort, Goebbels went to the German people, and they had this big rally. And it was like, total war, total war. And everybody said, yes, yes, total war. And this is kind of like Jamestown. Not Jamestown, Jim Jones, a cult, or Waco, where you have a cult who is being stopped. And so you say, death, we're going to go total war, total death, everybody dies. And in the end, Hitler, in his crushed physical and mental state in the bunker, said, the German people did not deserve me. Let them all destroyed. So he sent out the order, I think it's called the Nero order, destroy everything, blow up everything. But his people didn't do it. But it was like, just destruction. Everybody dies. So this death wish. So what we're looking at here is this is a vortex. Okay, we all know what a we all know what a vortex looks like. If you ever take a bath again, who takes baths? Take a shower. There's no vortex in a shower, but in a bathtub, when you pull that plug, you get a vortex, ooh, and it sucks all of the water, all the foam and anything floating around gets sucked into this vortex, and it goes down. And where does the whirlpool go? Where's all this going? It's going to death, you see. So when this vortex, this Ouroboros gets started, it's really a death wish. And the irony of it is that the vortex seeks the one. In other words, if the end, take Hitler, their ideology was one Germany, one people, one Führer, the one. In order to get to be the one that has no second, you have to eliminate the seconds. If you want to get to purity, you have to eliminate the impurity. So when this end of achieving the one that has no second was in Hitler's time a national racial oneness, the one Aryan race, you see, the one German nation, when those two combined, racism, racial purity, and national purity, you create a vortex that will suck everything into it and gather energy. And so the end, ideologically, was the one pure German race, which was in their mind, a superior race, so that it justified in eliminating all the impure races, which was the Jews and the Slavs. And so they were justified in taking them over. The idea of Lebensraum, a space to live in, you see. Take over Russia, live there. Take over everything. The space to expand. Endless expansion, you see. So this is kind of like you drop a rock in a pond and the ripple goes out. And if there's no pond, if there is no border to the pond, the ripple will go on and on and on. But if there's a border to the pond, the ripple hits that and comes back. So the ripple that Hitler dropped into the pond came back as Russia and America and England, you see. And it began to push and restrict their original ripple back towards the one that has no second, which ironically is death. So when you seek the one that has no second in form, you end up seeking the one that has no second in death. They become the same. Death has no second. You can't divide death. There's not two deaths. So God and death are two ends of the expansion. Going to the one without a second and going to the one without a second in the center, which is death. So what happens here as this, using an image here, because that's the best way to understand these formulas, is when you have some visual images to hold on to. So you drop a rock in a pond, goes plop, and a circle of energy goes out, expanding. Now, if the goal of the rock is to find, create, seek the one without a second, basically that means I want peace. I'm seeking the one without a second, because if there's no second, there's no conflict. So the one without a second, which is the definition of God, is absolute peace. No ripples. The pond is perfectly at peace and rest. There is no second ripple. So the ideology is, the delusion is, that if you have to seek peace and the one without a second, you create a effort to do that. And this is a desire, this is a misplaced desire for God, if you define God as the one without a second. So this misplaced desire for God, or the one without a second, in time, means that I want to seek it in the future. So now I got to get the means to that, you see. So what do I have to do to get to the one without a second in the future? The kingdom of heaven on earth, you see. The promised land. Restore America. What do I have to do to get to that? Well, since this is a divine mission, any means to that. So Hitler uses violence in order to get to the goal of peace. Now, of course, we realize that when you separate the means from the end like that, if you use conflict in order to achieve a state of not conflict, you will never get there, because whenever you get there, you're still in conflict. You cannot separate the means from the end. You cannot arrive at love by using unloving means. You can't arrive at peace by using unpeaceful means. Now see, the actual peace, the real peace, is that balance, the one without a second, is always already here. And this is the point of Buddhism. If you crave if you crave peace, you're actually denying the peace that you already are. You already are the one without a second. You already are in a state of balance. So if you use effort to achieve balance, you are achieving out of balance. And then the pain of being out of balance creates the vortex, the energy of the Ouroboros, as it keeps generating more energy to get to the goal that it is actually that is preventing. It's kind of chasing a feather with your breath. And you think, well, if I have more breath, I'll get more feather. And it gets farther and farther away, you see. And the delusion is not seeing that my breath is creating the distance between me and the feather. So I have to keep chasing. And so there you have the Ouroboros, which is an expanding energy field that is achieving the impossible dream, because the effort to achieve it becomes the obstacle to the dream. So this, in a sense, then is a death wish, because it is only in death, then, since you can't achieve peace by effort in time, in the future, death then becomes the goal. You can achieve peace through death. The end of struggle. That's what death is. No more time. No more struggle. It's gone to a better place. The struggle is over, you see. So in that sense, the two ends of the book ends, God as the one without a second and death with the one without a second, become one. And then it's all over. And of course, Germany achieved that total destruction. Of course, the rest of the story is that they rebuilt themselves and they were born again out of that death, without the desire for National Socialism. They got that out of their system. So I think we can see parallels here between the formula for this and in our own life, in your personal life. If you're seeking something, some place where you believe you will be complete, if only I had this relation, if only I moved there, if only I got this, I would be complete then. That would be for the end of desire, the end of struggle. I would get there. If I get that new car, oh God, I would just be so happy. That'd be the end of desire. Get that really, whatever we're seeking, you see, is the formula for the Ouroboros. And of course, in the field of time, when I drop this rock in the pond to find eternal absolute peace, you see, I'm creating a disturbance. And the world will equal my energy with an opposing energy. And then I will blame the world for my not achieving this one without a second. It's very ironic. And it won't end until we have a sudden realization of what we're doing. And I always love this little picture here, because when I draw the Ouroboros eating its own tail, going around and around and around, increasing, wah, 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 wah. Do you notice what happens when I draw that? A little smiley face? This becomes an Om. You see the Om? Om, 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 Om. So with a smiley face, with seeing, the Ouroboros becomes Om. Ah, Om. The word without it. The word that has no second. Om is the word that has no second. The primary word. So, with a little smiley face and with the eye of awareness, I see, the Ouroboros becomes Om. Okay, thanks for dropping in. I'll see you tomorrow, if there is a tomorrow.